Have you ever gone grocery shopping, filled up your gas tank, or just gone shopping in general and thought to yourself, wow, everything is so expensive? Like imagine having $100 a few years ago. That could have bought you several things that you needed. If you spend that $100 today, you're gonna walk away with far less. So, where did that money go? The answer is something that we talk about in all economics, inflation. In this video, I'm going to explain to you what inflation is, why prices increase, and how inflation affects everyday people. What is inflation? So inflation is the general increase of prices and services over time. The important word here is general. So inflation doesn't necessarily mean that every single product is going to become more expensive at the exact same time. Instead, it means that prices across the economy is increasing overall. One way to measure inflation is through the Consumer Price Index, also known as CPI. The CPI tracks the price of a basket of goods and services that consumers commonly purchase. This can include things like food, housing, transportation, clothing, and medical care. Imagine that a basket of everyday products costs $100 one year, and then the next it costs $105 the following year. So the price increased by $5. To calculate the percent increase, we can use this formula. Percent change equals the change in price divided by the original price, multiplied by 100. In this example, 5 divided by 100 multiplied by 100 equals a 5% increase. So that means that the price of our basket increased by 5%. Why do prices increase? There are several reasons why inflation can happen. One reason is the increase in demand. So if a lot of people want to buy a product, but there aren't enough products available, sellers may be able to charge higher prices. We can see this through the basic economic concept of supply and demand. Imagine there is a popular new shoe that everyone wants. If a store only receives 10 pairs, but 100 people want to buy them, the limited supply combined with high demand can create pressure for prices to increase. Inflation can also happen because the cost of producing goods increase. Businesses have expenses such as wages, transportation, energy, materials, and rent. If those costs increase, businesses may raise their prices to maintain their profits. So when we see prices increasing, we have to ask an important economic question. Is demand increasing? Is supply decreasing? Or are businesses facing higher production costs? The answer can help us understand what is actually happening to the economy. Inflation and interest rates. Another important part of inflation is interest rates. Unfortunately, when inflation becomes too high, the Federal Reserve can use monetary policy to try to slow down the economy. One tool it can use is raising interest rates. When interest rates increase, borrowing money generally becomes more expensive. People may think twice before taking out a loan or to buy a car or a house. Businesses may also be more cautious when borrowing money to expand. The goal is to reduce spending and demand in the economy, which can help slow down the growth of prices. However, there are trade-offs. Higher interest rates can help fight inflation, but they can also make it more difficult for people to borrow money and for businesses to invest and grow. This shows an important idea in economics. Policies often involve trade-offs. There is no single solution that fixes every economic problem without creating other effects. How inflation affects everyday people. Inflation affects people differently, depending on their income and spending habits. If someone's wage increased by 2%, but price increased by 5%, that person may actually have less purchasing power. Purchasing power refers to how much good and services your money can actually buy. Let's say someone earns $20 an hour. If their wage increases by 2%, their new wage could be $20.40 per hour. But if the prices of goods they buy increase by 5%, their income may not be keeping up with the cost of living. This is why inflation can be especially difficult for people whose wages don't increase as quickly as the prices. Personally, I think this is the easiest ways to understand inflation. Like when you go shopping and notice that the same amount of money doesn't buy it as much as it used to, you're experiencing inflation in your everyday life. A real life example. So a good example can be something as simple as grocery shopping. Imagine that you normally spend $100 on groceries. If those same groceries cost 10% more expensive, your new total will be $110. That might not sound like a huge difference from one shopping trip, but if you shop every week, that extra $10 adds up. Over 52 weeks, an additional $10 per week can equal $520 in extra spending over the course of a year. This is why even a small price increase can have a significant impact on someone's budget over time. It affects how families budget their money, how much they can save, and what they choose to buy, and whether they can afford large purchases. Inflation and AI. Another interesting topic connected to the future of economics is artificial intelligence. AI can potentially help businesses analyze huge amounts of data and predict the change of consumer demands. A company can use AI to predict how many products consumers are likely to buy and adjust its inventory accordingly. If businesses can better predict demands and manage their supply chains, this could potentially reduce waste and improve efficiency. However, AI can also create challenges. Inflation is much more than just prices going up. It affects our purchasing power, our wages, our savings, our ability to borrow money, and ways businesses can make decisions. By understanding concepts like supply and demand, CPI, interest rates, and purchasing power, we can better understand why the economy affects our everyday lives. Inflation reminds us that money isn't just about how much we have in our wallets. It's also about what that money can actually buy. That's why understanding economics is important. It's not just for the politicians or for the professors, but it's for all of us.